When you design who you're becoming, success begins to chase you. You get so enthused into this practical sense of who you are, into this knowing of how you fit in the world. Your patience increases, your clarity of direction increases, and you just naturally begin to feel like success is following you, looking for you. Imagine believing every moment of the day that the universe is fully functioning in your favor, your dreams, your desires, and your goals. Hey everybody, Jeff here. Before we get started, if you're getting value from the podcast, please take a moment to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. For those of you listening on podcast apps, don't forget to rate and review. Your support really helps the show reach more people, and for that, I am truly grateful. Now let's dive in. Welcome to The Point with Jeff Spikes. Hello, and welcome to The Point. If you're a high performer, leader, founder, creator, entrepreneur, you are in the right place to consider best ways of moving forward. Growth mindset, seeking optimal strategies. And if you are looking to feel more purposeful and empowered, this is about becoming your next level self. And all of that is already within you. It's just about accessing it. So as we move forward with The Point and within the consideration of the new names and the new branding that is going to be second or third, I guess it'll be third generation by then, we're looking at moving fairly quickly to the fourth, which is a lot of really exciting things. We don't shy away from big problems, and we don't shy away from amazing things to create in the universe. And there's some really exciting things that are large, epic, monumental things to overcome that are literally the problems and challenges that we're going to wash away when we look at what's great in it and maximize it forward. So lots of exciting things coming. If you want a sneak peek on that, reach out to me and we can sign a non-disclosure agreement and share on some really exciting future thinking type of events. So, this is I believe this is episode 118. We're moving towards 120 with the idea of rebranding by 120, and we'll see if that actually works or if we have to reset that goal or that target. But so far, it's moving forward extremely well in my mind, with plenty of flexibility. More feedback and the more interest and excitement that comes from you, any of our listeners or anyone watching on YouTube, the better, because you get to co-create and ask for things that you'd like to have content on, which so far has been amazing to see and hear. So this episode 118, and I've got some notes written up on another prompter over here that's going to help, and team helping me make sure that we stay on target. And this is about the power of designing your identity and how to align with your next level self. And alignment's important. We're working, this week has been a week full of gathering alignment, full of honoring the various needs of a team and looking at working with an executive team where each executive has a very different need for what they're valuing based on what their initiatives are, what they have to work towards. And, an example of that is the difference between one executive really concerned with culture and really spending time looking at what a mission and vision looks like, what strategy statements are, and what values are, and another really concerned with the amount of time it takes and what's necessary to hit the targets and goals that have been set. And sometimes those seem competing, but this week's been full of honoring both and moving forward, and that has been an exciting thing to participate in and help facilitate. So remember, when you have competing ideas, when you have things that seem like they should become an argument, if you value and honor, if you honor and value what's being said and look at what's being valued in what's being said, you can usually find a common ground and find a path forward that really addresses all of the concerns. Because what is most unique about you and every other person in this world is your perspective or perception, your perspective, and your approach. So when you're honoring and listening to other people's perspective and approach and considering how to integrate and activate with those in mind, everyone feels respected. And you get a lot more get a lot more gains. So, key concept of this is that you don't do things accidentally. It's if you design your identity first, because most of us, you in particular, by the time you reach a certain age, have ended up somewhere, and it's been written about. There are clear references that if we don't find now, we'll find later and post if you're asking for it. This idea that by a certain age, and I believe the age is 30, in our early 30s, most people have become something and said, how did I end up here? Have you seen yourself in a mirror and said, how did I end up here? At a job, in a home, in a position or situation, or in a relationship where how did we end up? How did I end up in this spot? And did you have an answer? Well, there is an answer for you. The answer is that you've gotten into basic behaviors and basic ways of showing up, whether it's how you wake up in the morning and the routines you set, or the ways you answer questions, or imagine yourself as a balloon. And maybe you're inside the balloon, but there's a balloon around you, like an energy field. And most of you are testing out how to bounce up against other people, other ideas, other companies, and seeing if you find and if you find anything sharp, you back up a little bit, right? So it's looking for what's soft and what can land well without popping that energetic balloon. And by that, we end up just going with what's comfortable because we haven't given our critical mind a job. And so our critical mind is still looking for things that it's afraid of and things that might be uncomfortable. And even the critical mind can think of something that you're afraid that could become fearful. So in that realm of just trying to be happy and live a life without a lot of intention, or with a specific intent, that you end up somewhere. Where have you ended up that you otherwise would have done differently? And it's sometimes wise to make a list of that, because knowing what you don't want anymore and having a list of things that help uncover what it is that you have to kind of unravel and resolve so that you can move forward, because most of those things have some type of an emotional attachment. Designing your identity first brings some clarity to who you will become. And why identity drives actions. Well, if you act as who you believe you are, well, that's pretty accurate. You act as you believe you are. Well, if you've ended up somewhere believing you are something and you've created these beliefs, that's what you get to unpack. So when you consider who you're becoming, who you'd like to be, you can begin to unpack that identity. So that's one of the reasons why having a large vision and having things that excite you that you can plan for and move towards can be really important, because that, as a top line understanding of what you'd like, along with a baseline of existing of where you are today, sets up the opportunity to consider, who am I now? Who will I be with these achievements? And then you can use some of the Wayne Dyer and some of the other experts of our history and our past that say write down the 10 things in a future state as if they've already been achieved that you want to do in the next year or 2 years. How do you intentionally design a next level identity that's aligned with your strengths? That's a really important discussion. The key words being that is aligned with your strengths. It's valuable to stop and take time and gain the data points, gain all of the feedback you need that you'd like to have. Sometimes you might not like to have it if it's painful or if it seems like results you didn't want. But that time looking in the mirror it's not worth spending time in it in a begrudging way or in a way where you're hurting yourself or beating yourself up for it. It's already done. You're already there. It can be done joyfully. It can be done encouragingly, as long as you remember one thing first. When you look in the mirror, you can easily shift to the rear view mirror, knowing that you're looking at it with the intention of deciding if it's a way to move forward or if it's something you want to put behind you. If you want to put it behind you, you're at freedom of choice. If you take your unique identity, your unique ability to have your own perspective, and to own your approach to getting things done, to any type of project, problem, solution, or engagement. And you remember that you're always a choice. You have free will. Those three things alone give you such power and freedom to be the most empowered version of yourself. So you might say that creating your future identity, or creating the identity of who you could be, is taking things in your own hands and controlling things and not turning things over enough, or giving God the right amount of presence in your life. If you're a spiritually driven, God-driven person, that might, in your mind at first, be some type of a conflict. But let's be clear that if you're a God-centered person, as a God-centered person, where your top priority is your relationship with God, that vertical relationship, what's been put in your heart and your desires for who you want to be are in service to Him and your best self. So either way, there is a excitement, a commitment, and an enthusiasm to being the best version of yourself that you're designed to be. The way to find those is to find what parts of your will are the proper use of that and are in alignment with your true purpose, that you can find and know with it intuitively, and that you can learn to find data points that help capture the reality. So our mission stands, and the idea stands, that everyone's responsibility is to truly shine and be the best version of themselves. And that in itself is a dichotomy, in that it seems like one of the most self-centered things you might do, or the most arrogant things that you can do, is to be really clear on how you're amazing. But if you're amazing in your perception and your approach, and you have all these things in common with everyone else, including that they are amazing in their perception and their approach, there's a gifted way that they see things, and you add the power of choice to make decisions to move in the direction using these strengths, then you're no longer fighting against the grain, and you're going with the way you're wired, which is then can be targeted within that will, within God's will. So your self-will, the magic is when your self-will and God's will lines up. Now, if you're more spiritual and less religious, or less in the way of needing terms to hold that, or if you have a religion that doesn't use God as its great spirit, or whatever that is for you, it all still fits the same, because you get to be designed the way you're meant to be designed and move forward. So intention there is really powerful. So let's remember, aligned with your strengths. The reason this is important is because you have taken on strategies that you've been taught and moved forward with them as if that's the best way to move forward, without considering how to make them your own. And even if you've done it your way in a 98 ways, there's always one or two ways where you've just taken on someone else's way of doing it. Well, when you're fully aligned and moving towards something big, when you really want to evolve into your true self, understanding how you're wired and what your strengths are is critical to making sure that those are connected within your identity, so you're not fighting those little things. Those little things create the emotional resistance that can hold you back and become stuck points. So you can find them along the way. You can clear as many as you can as you get started, but doing that mental work up front is important, so that you don't have to grind and do the physical work later. In designing strengths, we talk about really evaluating what are your passions. So beyond just what your strengths are, what are your passions? What's God put into your heart that makes you that you're passionate about? And sometimes the way you can find that is by considering what's happening in the world around you that drives you crazy or that you don't really like. Sometimes in that is where you find that thing you're passionate about. Other times it could be something you're constantly championing or saying is critical or important. And when you find your passions, you can then start to hone in small level goals that you are passionate about. And maybe it's snowboarding or skateboarding or knitting or quilting, whatever it is that brings you joy, that you're passionate about, that makes you happy, clears your mind. You can just find ways to think of it. Setting a goal with something like that naturally bleeds over into all other areas of life. And in mental programming and NLP and other things, we call that lateral chunking or lateral moves. You can take the win here and make it over there. You can take the wins from where you are good at working as a team and find out what makes that work and move it over to this other area and win and have great reward. So these micro shifts can come from really short-term goals and then honing your strengths and your best self towards those goals so that you naturally start creating these new ways of being that naturally help you move forward towards other things. One of the most common things we hear in designing strengths, especially as we shift towards quantum, then in the consideration of all of the resources in the world, but mostly in designing strengths, is that they're not even sure why things all of a sudden feel so much easier. And I get that feedback more than anything is that, man, all of a sudden things are just getting easier. I've had people read through just to the visualizing part of the book and have enough gains that they stopped reading. When you start considering how you're interjecting yourself and how you're moving forward in a strength based on something you're really passionate about that really excites you, it moves easier into other areas and all of a sudden becomes automated much faster. Something about the enthusiasm and the excitement, which also comes with some sense of gratitude for doing that over other things, just naturally you get gains. So 3 keys to building momentum towards your desired outcomes. Well, we've said most of them. We've started with those, but the keys are to really do the work to know your strengths, to gain the data points of understanding what you're great at, what you've been great at, where you feel most fulfilled. Begin to consider where you are today versus where you want to be. Have that higher level vision and understand where you are today as a baseline to grow from. Consider any foundational pieces that are there, right? And then, look at what you're passionate about that can help you propel forward faster so that you can practice there where you can have fun. And then you start feeling great about it and that momentum begins to go. So with the small term goals, you then begin to really understand how to leverage some of those decisions and leverage some of those strengths into your bigger planning. And that's where momentum comes. You start feeling the wins. Now, critical to this is to start building in some kind of rewards for yourself, some type of wins, some type of way of giving yourself the opportunity to feel good about what you've done. You are then, as talking about the critical mind, is then going to be looking for ways of wanting more of what feels good and how you've rewarded yourself. And it's going to want less of the fear and the other things that are hurting and getting in the way. And that'll also help create that momentum. When you design who you're becoming, success begins to chase you. It's an amazing phenomenon. You get so enthused and into this practical sense of who you are, into this knowing of how you fit in the world, into this acceptance of where it doesn't fit quite well, knowing how to find your way into something better. Your patience increases, your clarity of direction increases, and you just naturally begin to feel like success is following you, looking for you. Imagine believing every moment of the day that the universe is fully functioning in your favor. The universe is functioning in your favor. Everything is leaning to favor your dreams, your desires, and your goals. And that's true for you when you're finding your best self, because that's when you're in the greatest amount of flow and the most connection with others. The most humble thing you can do is to truly embrace and accentuate and be the best version of yourself. And then encourage others to do the same, because then you're acknowledging that you're not alone. How many of you understand that a problem shared is lessened? The same thing works with success. Yes, you can do that with problems, and that's a valuable thing. But imagine that with everyone leaning into their best self and respecting and honoring each other's perspectives and approaches. If you're teamed with people that matter to you, and if you're surrounding yourself with people you love and people you want to be surrounded with, it's even that much more incentive, motivation, and importance to do so. And if you find yourself at odds with people, it's probably because you're not recognizing you're in a strategy. You're not in your true self. And people might be getting known for your strategies. So you've heard it before here that one of the challenges in life is when we take a strategy, especially one that's not ours, and attach it to our identity. But any strategy that's attached to our identity can then have the power to take away our choice of other things we may choose to do instead. So your greatest self, based on your perspective and your approach, with the power of choice, that freedom of choice and free will to make decisions, to be able to carry the burden of the decisions that you could improve on, so you do constantly improve. And as this design happens, as you design your best self, then success begins chasing you. That is a far cry from a struggle and a grind of trying to get forward. So that is the episode for today. That is the encouragement for today as we lean into becoming the Mindset Reboot or Quantum Strengths podcast. I appreciate and love and am enthusiastic about everyone leaning into these ideas. And I love all the reports coming back of what's working well. And especially as you guys engage with each other in teams, finding the breakthroughs and realizing that most of the arguments you're having in life aren't necessary, especially when you begin to honor and respect each other more. And with that, we're going to close and make this a wrap. So peace out, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for joining us for another amazing episode of The Point with me, Jeff Spikes. Please visit jeffspikes.com for everything you would need to know to engage with me offline. And lastly, thank you for your time, your attention, and your consideration. This is The Point.